One way that the conspiracy of silence is evident in some families is just through like the generational things, the generational ways in which they handle events. For example, they know when to be quiet or they know when to cover stuff up. An example of this would be I interned at the Children's Advocacy Center, and there were some families who came in who had like multiple generations of molestation or rape by the same family member, but they were just kind of taught, or they just kind of knew to keep quiet and not speak out about it. And because of this, these individuals struggle to know who they are, because that part of their lives was never explained to them or taught to them. Like, they didn't know why that was going on. They just knew to be quiet about it. Another way that I've seen this silence occur is in this kind of balance of justice and healing. A lot of clients felt like through the justice of like whoever hurt them being convicted, that was going to make everything better, but they later learned that that's not necessarily the case, that justice of someone doesn't bring a healing with them, and these are two very different things, and often we miss the healing aspect because we get so caught up in trying to find that justice. On page 352 of this article, up at the top, it kind of discusses how sometimes people struggle to find the words to narrate their trauma or narrate their story, but one of the best things that they can do is find social support groups, and that factors in with coping with trauma and stress because it gives them outlets and places to go to find that help that they need and the support that they need. One last thing, well, I guess it kind of plays back into the justice and healing, is distrust of the world. That oftentimes trauma makes you, or makes victims kind of like, they don't trust the actions of the world anymore, and they stay overprotective because they're scared of what might happen to them or other ones, or if they don't feel like justice is served, then they have such a distrust for maybe our police or other entities that are there to protect them but maybe didn't. And the last thing is maybe the risk of reintroducing these individuals into the world before they're ready, and this can kind of make them take multiple steps back. That's one thing that I saw at the advocacy center, is when parents would bring their kids in for whatever type trauma they may have, and then they felt like their child was progressing and doing better, they would stop coming, while their child may have been doing better on a small scale. Like, as a whole, they were still struggling. And so by reintroducing them like back into society and back into those like emotional circumstances, the child really digressed and really like took 4 steps back and was hurt in a much worse way. So that's also how the silence can affect trauma too. And I think often that people just don't know what to say or how to say when they've experienced such trauma and distress, because there's just they don't feel like others will understand how they feel. There's not words to put into those emotions of what they felt or how they felt, so sometimes it's just easier to be quiet because you have this feeling that nobody else will understand what you've been through. And sometimes that may be true, but there's always somebody that can give you that compassion and empathy and try to reach you on some level, whereas when you're in your silence, you just are continually dwelling on the emotional like craziness, if you will. So